Hello, this is Robert M. Ross, and I'd like to welcome you back to my channel, which I call The Common Sense Lifestyle. And this is a channel where I try to take some common sense psychological concepts and kind of whittle or distill those down to something that you can use in your everyday life. Doing this one a little bit differently today, kind of just going stream of consciousness. A lot of people that have watched the videos notice that I kind of look up during the videos, my eyes go up. Usually that's because there's a TV on the other side of the room mounted to the wall where I have a PowerPoint presentation where I kind of have some notes to kind of keep myself on task. No such presentation today. We're going to go kind of stream of consciousness here, see how that goes. It's probably also going to be a shorter video today. I just want to get to the topic and get done with it. But before we get into the topic for today, as always, my disclaimer, I am not your therapist. This is not a counseling session. Nothing in any of my videos could be construed or should be construed as mental health treatment. They are not meant to diagnose, treat any type of mental disorder. If you do need a therapist, I would encourage you to contact your insurance company. They can direct you to an insured person or a person that's in your plan in your area. You can also use Psychology Today, which works rather well. They have a find a therapist function on their website, and that works out pretty well for them. Now, topic for today. And almost kind of as another disclaimer, I'm not going to violate anyone's confidentiality. I'm not violating HIPAA here. And I've definitely been trained on that very thoroughly. Was speaking with a younger guy in his early 20s just recently, and he gave me permission to share this, provided that I did not share his personal identifying information, which I will not. Speaking to a young man in his early 20s lately who was just coming out of a very abusive, exploitive, nasty kind of relationship. He's coming out of that relationship and he's still being subjected to ongoing abuse. So he's having a hard time getting over that relationship because the abuse is ongoing. And I discussed that in some of my other videos on abuse, and I'll put the links in the description below. So he's going through this ongoing abuse. It's not stopping. And of course, he's afraid that it's going to be construed or misconstrued that he's abusing her, which is very common in these situations. But he was talking to one of his friends. He was out with friends, male and female. They're a couple. Guy's a longtime friend of his. And while the girl was away, the longtime friend looks at him and says, "You know, she beats me up sometimes." And my client said that for the first time, it really struck him that it's not normal to be beat up in a relationship. So that led to a very long conversation between us where we talked about default settings, and I'll leave the link to that video in the description below. But default settings are things that we're raised with, grow up with, are inculcated with, things that culture teaches us, our family teaches us, things that we watch and grow, learn, seeing while we're growing up. And they become our default settings. They become what we think is just plain old normal. So this young man grew up in watching his father be abused by his mother. The other young man who was telling him his story grew up in a situation where, watched his father be verbally abused by his mother. So, both of these young men grew up watching their fathers being verbally, if not physically, abused by their mothers, grew up thinking that it was okay to be abused. And it's so important to realize that it is never okay to be abused. It is never okay to abuse another human being. Never. There is no circumstance in which abuse is acceptable. Now, I understand self-defense. Someone attacks you. Yeah, it's going to be required for you to defend yourself. Completely get that. Completely understand it. That's not what I'm talking about here. This is, you're not doing what I want, so I'm going to punish you by either insulting you, punishing you, withholding sex from you, spending all your money, hitting you, cheating on you, threatening you, holding up pictures of my ex-boyfriend and saying, "I'm going to go cheat on you with him because I still talk to him." This happens a lot. This isn't the only time I hear stories like this. So guys, and again, my channel is mostly geared toward guys, though anyone can benefit from this knowledge. Guys, if a woman hits you once, It's over. Stop right there. It's over. Because if she hits you once, she will do it twice. And if she does it twice, she will do it 3 times. And if she does it 3 times, and you know where I'm going here, it's going to continue. And not only will it continue, it will escalate. So take a second and think this through. If you're dating someone and she starts to hit you, she starts to scream at you, she starts to threaten you, and it starts to progress, it starts to get worse, it starts to become more frequent, what happens if you get married? She's going to use that against you too. She's going to use the threat of using the legal system against you. And most of you guys that have seen other people go through divorces, whether it's a father, uncle, grandfather, friend, whatever, you've seen a guy go through divorce, you see what happens in the courts. They're going to get destroyed, and you're going to get destroyed. Because a woman that isn't afraid to hit you, a woman that isn't afraid to threaten you, a woman that isn't afraid to like hold up a picture of her ex and say she's going to cheat on this guy with you, or cheat on you with this guy, she isn't going to be afraid to lie in court. She isn't going to be afraid to take your kids from you and you'll never get to see your kids. She's pretty much everything's on her table, and the legal system will completely support that because the legal system's set up for that. And we can't change it, we can't fight it, there's nothing really we can do about it, but it's what it is. If you're with a woman who does this to you, you need to get out as soon as possible. This is not tolerable. This is not acceptable. This is not something you do. If you have any ounce of self-worth to yourself, if you think you're at least a valuable human being, if you think you're at least a decent human being, and I'm not saying you have to think you're better than everybody, you have to have a big head, whatever. You don't have to. If you think you're just a minimally worthwhile human being, you don't tolerate that in your life at any point in time. If she calls you and she starts to curse at you and berate you, hang up. If she texts you and threatens you and this and that and the other, block her. If she adds you on social media and starts saying stuff to you or about you, block her. Eliminate that from your life. You should not tolerate that from any human being in any circumstance. It should not happen. Should not happen. It's not tolerable. I can't stress this enough. It's a reflection on how you feel about you. If you allow that to happen in your life, if you allow yourself to be abused, it means you don't like you. It means you don't view yourself as a valuable human being. It means that you've been taught some really crappy things about relationships and what your expectations for relationships should be. And maybe you need to talk to a therapist about that. And if you do, certainly follow the instructions that I gave at the beginning of the video, and go find a therapist to help you sort that out. But have some self-respect for yourself. You just can't allow that to go on. Because it will get worse, and it will become more frequent, and it will become more intense, and the stakes will get higher the further and further you get into a relationship. Men end up in jail because of this. The woman will abuse and abuse and abuse, and if the man retaliates, then he gets arrested. Don't put yourself there. You have a choice. Leave the relationship. Get out. Leave. There's no other option there. And once you're into the relationship, the further you get in, the harder it is to escape. And once you put a ring on it, it's even harder to get out because you're going to suffer some financial losses. You're going to suffer if there's children involved. You're going to have to struggle and fight for your kids because they're going to use everything in the book against you by taking advantage of your kids. And it happens every day. So guys, that's pretty much it. I don't really have anything more to add. You cannot tolerate abuse. Do not tolerate it. Don't engage in it yourself, and do not tolerate it against yourself. There's no reason to abuse another human being, and there's no reason to accept abuse from another human being. If you think you're a human being, that you're worthy of just general basic human respect, do not tolerate abuse in any point in time in your relationships. As always, guys, I'm going to end it like I always do. If you're feeling suicidal, If there's a family member or a friend that's feeling suicidal and they're expressing that to you, I'm going to put a suicide prevention hotline in the description below. Please make use of that. Suicide is a long-term solution to a short-term problem. Most of the time things get better, including abusive relationships. It's not your forever. It's just a temporary situation. Most things get better. Use that number. Take care of yourselves, guys. Leave any comments in any reflections, any thoughts in the comments below. Share this with any guy that you know that's in a crappy relationship. If they need help, they need to hear this kind of a message, because there are literally guys like my client that really honestly thought this was normal. This was absolutely, this is just to be expected. No, it's not to be expected, guys. So peace. Have a great day. Take care of yourselves, guys. Be good. Thanks.